Yo, it's time to rock. Welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, Gene.
And we interview people in the animation industry about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
And today with us, we have Brandon. I don't know how to say your last name. I'm very sorry.
It's Hoang.
Hoang.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you like my rap?
Yeah, I was gonna totally roast you if I didn't get that intro.
I know.
Some good intro.
I know. I couldn't do the scatting again. I know you requested the scatting, but
I don't want to follow in someone else's footsteps.
no, you want your own custom rap.
It was great, Gene. It was great.
Thank you. So yeah, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Brandon Hoang, and I am a writer. It's weird to say that. I hesitated a little bit before I said writer.
You're a writer.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
writer. I'm a real writer. I'm a real boy.
You're a real boy.
How long have you been a writer for?
Professionally, 2 years.
Oh, yeah, 2 years and still you're hesitating?
You're a baby.
It's kind of weird when you start off writing because I used to write when I was doing my day job. I would do it at night. So
Right.
like, when are you really a writer? Are you a writer then, or are you a writer when you get your first paycheck?
I know.
I mean, are you not an artist when you're drawing, you know?
Right. I don't know. It's a weird question. So, I mean, I guess I got my first big boy writer paycheck probably around 2 years ago.
Ooh, exciting.
But before that, you were an executive for many years.
Yeah, I was an executive, current series animation executive for 10 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow, 10 years.
A little over 10 years.
That's a crazy backstory. And that's not something that I personally see very often, where somebody goes from being a network executive to going into the sort of creative side of things. So we are going to ask you about that, but let's rewind it back. Let's talk about like your childhood and like sort of what got you interested in, animation and just writing in general and telling stories and all that kind of stuff.
I grew up in a suburb of Portland, Oregon called Vancouver, Washington, which actually is a pretty big city. You know, I definitely was watching, consumed way too much TV, a lot of animation, a lot of cartoons. And I remember just falling in love with just watching animation and being like, how are people drawing these things and these drawings move? I was just so fascinated with that whole process. I could not believe it. And actually, I remember this when I was a kid, and the episode would end, and I knew that there would be another one the next day. I was like, whoa, how are they drawing that fast to make a new?
Hey, Brandon, I think there's still some people that think that.
Honestly, though, I like that you knew people were drawing these cartoons because I did not.
Yeah, at least it wasn't a computer.
Yeah, I did not know that.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? This is crazy. So yeah, watched a lot of cartoons. And then I was a big reader too. I read a ton of books. For those that are familiar with the Pacific Northwest, there's a little bookstore called Powell's, which I think is, you might want to fact check me on it, but I think it's the biggest bookstore in the US.
I think I've been there, and I think you're right, but yeah.
And I used to go there on weekends with my dad, and I'd go and he'd just let me loose, and I would just pick out, wander those aisles for hours, picking out books, anything I wanted, really. Go to libraries and fill up grocery bags full of books, take those home, devour those. And again, just the same thing. Like, I just would love not only reading the words, but also the pictures are beautiful, and like, so the variety of stuff you can get from so many different picture books and stuff. I was like, how can I do this? I want to be an artist someday. Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad, I remember after watching, like, I was also fascinated with like Roger Rabbit, right? When that movie came out, and I was like, what, my mind's going crazy. Yeah. This is
right.
And I remember I told my dad, I was like, I want to draw or write someday. And he's like, there's no money in that, so don't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. It's the cliche. Yeah. It's the cliche Asian kid upbringing. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no money. I can't make money. What if I was a writer? And he's like, no, people don't make money doing that. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. He's like, that's a hobby. Drawing, writing, that's hobby. You don't do that for a real job. And I was like, okay. But then like, there's that part of me that I like to prove people wrong all the time. So take that down.
I relate.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that was like kind of like, I mean, that was like my real big kind of like my intro to art, especially in animation. And I was a big video game player too. I played a ton of video games. Same thing, like love consuming the art. Like I knew someone had to be drawing those things. Someone had to be doing those drawings. Someone had to be writing those stories. And I was just always fascinated with that kind of stuff.
So like, what did you do any kind of like story creating when you were in school, in high school or in college? Because like, what was your college education as well?
Yeah, oh man, I used to I remember, I think it was the first thing that got me into writing was when my dad brought home a PC, the home PC, and he was like, "Here's a program where you can actually." I remember like
oh man,
MS Paint, and I remember MS Paint. I think it used to be like you drew by the pixel. You drew by the square.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I used to spend hours and hours and hours like zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. Like drawing on that, making pictures. And then I remember he was like, "Oh, here's a Word program," and I was like, "You can write." And I used to like sit and write. I remember I did this. I still have them. They're like, it's basically a ripoff of Ghostbusters, but I just called it Ghost Chasers.
Oh man.
How old were you when you were like drawing and writing all these?
What? How old was I?
Yeah.
Probably third grade, fourth grade.
That's great.
I would draw these stories, print them out on on the computer, and then I'd sell them around the neighborhood for it's
oh man, you were hustling?
I was hustling, and I was like,
wow.
Man, like how like cringy is it to look back at it now and be like, these neighbors, like they don't want to, someone's ringing their doorbell, like
that's not cringy.
These stories, like this is embarrassing. My mom should have stopped me from doing that.
I think it's great though. I feel like this is something that I've read from like interviews of comic artists, like that they would like draw and like go to like the copy machine and just like copy basically like 10s or like 20s of those and like hand them out at school. Would you like show your friends at school?
I used to I'd feature my friends in school, and I used to also I used to hand draw and write Valentines, which was a pain in the ass for like a class of like 30 kids.
Damn.
And I do individual ones for like each kid. I'm like, okay, this girl's a cat girl. I'm gonna draw
wow.
like a cat pun. And like so I know he likes Batman, like stuff like that.
That's really nice. You're probably popular then.
I don't know if I like they're like, oh, here's this weird, like you couldn't get me the store-bought Valentine, you gotta hand draw yours. Like, I don't know, do kids really appreciate that? I don't know. That's nice. Still nice. But yeah, I used to write these stories, and I used to I mean, you guys know too, I'm sure you guys the same thing. I used to get notebooks for Christmas, and I'd never drawn them because it was precious commodity, right?
Yeah.
You don't draw them.
Yeah.
So I'd drawn the back of these big, my mom would bring home boxes of computer paper, not like fresh new, but like used from her job.
Sure.
And I'd drawn the back of those.
I've heard that before from people too.
I have like literally lived this life, Brandon. What is happening?
I don't know, maybe
right
we
now?
all share this.
Like...
Maybe this is like a...
I think that's common. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's like my dad worked in an office too, and yeah, like there's so much paper that they would burn through in the 90s, just like, so they would just bring it home sometimes.
But the thing, like the whole idea that like paper is precious, I don't know, like, like you don't get to draw on the paper that is blank on both.
Yeah.
Not only paper, but like I remember getting markers were like my favorite thing to get for a gift. You get like the basic Crayola markers, and then you get the forest flavor, right? Like the dark raspberry and the like, oh my god, this is gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's really funny. I hated those markers. Like the ones that you would get from like your aunt, and it was like some knockoff brand, and they would dry out after like
Rosewell or something.
Yeah, like Rosewell. And it's like I think I still have drawers full of like shitty markers back in my parents' house that I never used and will never use, and they're probably like dried out to hell at this point.
So good.
So from there, like, what did you go to school for?
So I went to the University of Washington in Seattle, and I went there without really knowing what I wanted to do. I was always fascinated with sociology, so I was like, I'm gonna just do that. Like, is there any math involved with this? No? Okay, I'm gonna do this. So I was a sociology major, and then my first internship was at Leica Studios.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It was just starting out. Will Vinton, right? Will Vinton, stop motion artist who did the California Raisins. I was
Oh.
there right when Leica was buying out that studio. So I was actually there when they were scraping his name off of the doors.
Oh man. Oh wow. Okay.
And at that time, Henry Selick, they brought in Henry Selick to do an experimental short just to kind of test out the studio's chops. And he did a short called Moon Girl. And that was my first internship. I was pinning boards for Henry Selick.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a hell of an internship.
Wow. And how old were you at that time?
What's that?
How old were you?
Oh, that was I was in college. I think I was a senior in college when that happened. So so I did that, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and it was like kind of like that the height of, I knew I was gonna move to LA. I was like, I want to be in the entertainment business doing something. I don't know what yet. And I moved to LA, and it was like the height of the recession. So there were like no jobs, no internships. I had to lie my way in just to get an internship at Paramount Studios, which was one of the only studios that were doing paid internships. I got paid like $9 an hour.
Yeah, that is actually really hard to find.
To work. I totally lied my way in. Because you had to have, they were paying you, but they also required you to have college credit.
Ooh.
So, and I had already graduated. So I emailed a professor of mine. I was like, can you just send me the paperwork for internships and sign it just to say I'm doing this internship? And he was like, yeah, of course, I'll do that for you. So did that for me. Applied, I got the internship. You know, I was in an old dusty office on the Paramount lot in the story department, which our job was to organize, distribute, and basically we're the library for coverage for projects that were coming in. And so yeah, I mean, there was no job, so I was there for a year. I was doing restaurant work. I was a waiter. I was a waiter and doing the internship at the same time.
Ooh. Do you feel like being a waiter was a good experience for you to kind of like gather stories, like, I don't know, to like pay attention to people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe I don't consciously, I've never thought about that before until you asked me this question just now.
Really? Huh.
I never thought about it like that. Really. I loved waiting. I thought it was hard work, but I loved talking to people. It was just, you just met crazy people all the time. It was,
Oh yeah, totally. I can't imagine the kind of crazy people.
it was, yeah. It was, but it was so much fun. And it was,
Where were you waiting, like at, like what restaurant, like what area of LA?
yeah, it was in the heart of downtown. Actually, I got my first waiting job because my roommate and I were both trying to get jobs, any kind of job, and we both were walking around town together submitting our resumes. And the owner of the restaurant, or the hiring manager of the restaurant, hired us because he thought we were a cute gay couple.
Oh really?
Oh.
My first like restaurant gig, and I was like, yes, all right, sweet, I'll take it. It was called Schwab's. It was on the corner of Sunset and Vine, no longer there.
Yeah.
And then I worked at another restaurant called Magnolia, which was right next to Nick on Sunset, same block.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't exist there anymore either.
Yeah, rest in peace, Nick on Sunset.
Okay, I was like thinking, like, I don't think I've ever seen that restaurant.
But yeah, it's not there anymore, but it was awesome. But I used to do my internship at the Paramount lot, change clothes, drive over to the restaurant and work there until like 11:30, then start the day over again. It was brutal, but
Wait.
Damn.
Hold on a second. So like your day started at what time?
I used to start at 9 o'clock at the Paramount lot, and I lived and walked.
Okay.
My apartment was walking distance, so I used to just walk to the lot, do my internship, come back home, get in the car, drive over to the restaurant, work there, and then come back home at night.
Oh yeah, so that's like like your whole day was just like, like running all over the place.
That's hectic.
But yeah, it was. I mean, it's something you can only do in your 20s when you have that.
Yeah.
I miss those days when you could wake up hungover and be like, all right, I'm doing this.
Yeah, I feel you.
It's funny to think about that. Like when I was in college, my school was like maybe 15 minutes from home, from my parents' place where I was living. And I would organize my schedule where I would get like basically cram all my classes into Monday to Thursday. But then I also worked in the school. I worked like in the equipment cage. So it's like my whole life was in that building.
Mm-hmm.
And my classes would start at like 8. So I would wake up like early as hell, go to class, and then I would have 4 classes in a row with like, a lunch break in between or whatever. But so I would do all those 4 classes. And then at the end of the night, like go over to my friend's place and like hang out, play video games and like party. And we would stay up until like 2 a.m. or something. I would drive home, go to sleep, and then wake up and do it all again. And somehow like I was never that tired. Like I think I was just running on pure adrenaline.
Yeah, of course.
And also I was like 19. I think I graduated before I was even 21 because I like did summer classes and shit. And so yeah, that's just like pure teenage like adrenaline of just not giving a shit. That's when you got to do it.
I wish I could, yeah, man, I wish I could have that same energy there. But I should also say this, is that I was watching, you know, I was still a big animation fan during that entire time. And the more I was doing that internship, the more I was like, okay, I want to get into video games or get into animation. How do I do that?
Right.
And they were like, oh, video games. Well, the people that write video games are programming it. So I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'm not going to do video games. That's going to be out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do animation. And I was like, but I'm not an artist, and I'm too scared to try writing. I mean, you just hear the horror stories about people scraping by, trying to get that next gig. And I was like, I can't do that right now. I'm in my 20s. I need to start getting some money in my bank account. I can't do that. I need an HR department. I need a 401k. Yeah. I'm not gonna even try this right now. Again, we got to remember this is the height of the recession too. So
right, the height of the recession would be like what year?
What was that? 2000, early 2000s. What? 2005.
Okay.
So I mean, again, please fact check me after this because I don't know.
No,
whatever.
This is all accurate.
All right. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like start applying for internships, and then like, you also got to remember at the time that studios and stuff didn't have great websites. They were garbage. You couldn't reach anyone. You couldn't get a hold of anyone. And I remember, so it was really, really hard. You just had to like kind of like print out your resume and just try to get yourself out there. I applied for, that's like the story I tell all the time, for Nickelodeon. I was like, I'm going to get into Nickelodeon. I'm getting into Nickelodeon. I did, including second and like sometimes third interviews. I interviewed to get into Nickelodeon 10 or 12 times.
Whoa!
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was I applied to, like, I was almost Butch Hartman's assistant. Didn't get that.
Oh, wow, that's probably better.
Like a PA position. I was doing anything I could to get in. And finally someone was like, hey, have you considered getting on the desk on the network side, you know, being a creative executive? And I was like, what is that? Like, oh, like this is, you know, there's a production that is the ones in charge doing per show, but then you have the network that oversees those productions. I was like, oh, okay. And then like in a creative executive, you kind of get to see it all from
like the whole pipeline. Yeah.
You get to see it all. I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, I'm not a writer, but I can at least like, you know, this is probably as close as I'm probably going to get. So I was really lucky enough that a couple of current series executives took a chance on me, and they hired me as their assistant. And that was my first job. Getting into animation.
That's great.
Do you know kind of what made them take a chance on you? Like, do you think like because you applied so many times, like had they seen you around, or like is there anything that kind of made you stand out?
I think it was pity. I totally think it was pity.
He just keeps trying. Just give it to him. It's fine.
You're joking, but I swear I'm almost positive that's how it happened. I think they knew. When they interviewed me, they knew that I had a passion for animation, because I do think that a lot of people that apply for those jobs might not be true animation fans.
Right.
This is my guess. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that people
believe it.
Apply just to get the job and they move on. When a live action, you know, a shiny live action position opens up, they get the experience they need and they move off to go do live action. So I think they were like, oh wait, this kid's a real deal. He actually. I was an awful interview. I talk too fast. I stumble. I stutter. I'm a sweaty mess. I wear, like, no one told me to alter my clothes to make me fit my tiny body. So I was going in there like swimming in like, you know, cheap button ups, like looking like an idiot. And I don't know how I managed to get a job, but I got a job, and that was my first gig.
I wanted to give a side note. You mentioned that you alter your clothing. You're like one of the most well-dressed dudes I know in animation, and I want to compliment you on that. Because I that's the secret, huh? I always was like, how does he do it? And it's probably because you're getting your clothes altered, huh?
It's just someone being like, Brandon, just because it says size small doesn't mean it fits you. You need to have it tailored to you. You need to find clothes that fit you.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
It took me a long time to figure that out.
That's a good friend who.
Yeah, whoever that was, give him a medal.
Yeah.
I wish that more dudes understood that. Like, it took me a while to figure it out too, but man, yeah, it's like just because it says the size and it is like on your body doesn't mean that it looks good.
That's the only reason why I agreed to do this podcast, was to get that word out.
That's good. Yeah, this
podcast is sponsored by H&M, I guess. I hope.
Yeah,
they have a lot of money.
God, wouldn't that be nice? It's the most like irrelevant sponsorship ever.
Right.
We're sponsored by H&M. Buy some shirts.
Anyway,
So that's a crazy place to start. And so how long were you in that position? You kind of worked your way up over the years, though.
Yeah, so it was give you a little timeline here. So my first, I was an assistant to the two current series executives, and I was like, oh, this is great, like development. And they're like, no, this is not development. That's a different set of executives. This is current series. Your job is to, once the show gets out of development and gets greenlit, the development executives go work on their next projects, and they get handed over to the current series executives. So these are the shows that are currently on the air or going to be on the air. That's your job. I was like, oh, interesting. So yeah, so that was my first, and I was a coordinator, then I was a manager, then I was a director before I left Nick. But my first shows when I was a coordinator was Planet Sheen.
Oh boy.
And Fanboy and Chum Chum. Those are my shows when I was a coordinator.
Ooh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what did your day look like as like kind of each of those positions? Because honestly, I know what a storyboard artist they look like, but I don't know what it is like on your side. I mean, on your old side.
Yeah. So basically, I always explain that the current series team, your executive, your coordinator, your manager, or what have you, they are like this octopus that like they're watching out for the show's production, and they're also watching out for the network needs at the same time. They're kind of like they're the show's voice back to the network, and the network's voice back to the show. So I mean, there's so many, you're meeting, this is one of the reasons why I love this job, is that you're meeting so many different people in so many different departments.
Yeah, no kidding.
So your job is basically like putting out little fires every single day. Like, and you're on multiple shows, right? A current series executive will have, I think in Nickelodeon at the time, you were assigned maybe like 3 shows. It changes from studio to studio, but at the time it was like, oh, you're at 3 shows that you are in charge of. So you're attending storyboard pitches, you're reading, everything from premise to final draft, and giving notes and reading them, all those. But you're also doing a lot of miscellaneous stuff too. Like you're building like PowerPoint decks to like show off to other parts of all the other arms of the business to get them on board what the show is, because unfortunately not everyone watches the shows that they're supposed to be working on, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you're like the cheerleader for the shows that you are overseeing. So I mean, you got to think about every single part of a show that has all these other sides, but the show doesn't have time to do, right? Your showrunners, your producers don't have time to like answer every single question. So you have your studio experts, which is your current series team, are your experts on the show. They watch everything. They're watching, animatics, locked picture. They're going to records. They, so we used to give notes on stuff like anything that came through from publishing, or like there's a toy design. You're like, this looks weird. This is off model. Let us give you some model sheets, or let us pay some artists to like do drawovers on this to like make it accurate and make it not look like garbage. I used to like, one of my jobs was, there was so much Avatar and Korra commissions that need to be done for DVD covers and posters and things like that. And it was my job to basically be that liaison from Brian Konietzko to those people, to like give him deadlines, make sure that he's, delivering the materials that needs to be done, making sure that he's happy with the final product that's going to show up on media. I'm rambling here, but the job.
No, it's all interesting.
The job entails so much stuff. That's a small slice of it. We used to go to table at cons and like organize the panels. What is the panel going to look like? Who we're going to have up on stage?
It's basically the role of like a producer, or maybe like a manager. I think a better comparison is like a band manager almost, where you're like,
for the show.
Yeah, but for a show. So you're like trying to filter through like what the artistic vision is, upwards to the label or whoever, but you're also always there at like the concerts, like, that would be like the conventions. That's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. And like, this is like my big plea to like people on shows that like hate the network and like hate network executives. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, look, there are a lot of things that hate network executives about. I get it. I totally understand. Yeah. I understand. But at the same time, like, they're also they are your biggest and might be your only champions at the studio. And they're really busting their ass to like make sure that your show is getting some things are tied out of their hands, right? I mean, you're answering to a lot of different arms of the business that, unfortunately like don't get it sometimes, but like I almost promise you they're always trying. So
yeah, that is kind of a frustrating misconception, is that like It's like, fuck the network. And it's like, well, you signed up for it. And like the people, I've like pretty much all the experiences I've ever had with network executives are positive. Like they do try and they do want the show to succeed, but there's usually factors beyond their control. And like there's like a million different factors that can happen that are way above their head. And all they're doing is just trying, like you said, put out fires, and like it's tough.
I mean, like, I remember like, leaks that happened. I get emails from,
oh God,
it was being like, what the hell happened? You're like, I don't know. I got to figure out what happened. I was on some shows that were just like the biggest fandoms that would like, I mean, that's a whole other topic we get into.
Yeah.
I kind of want to like talk about all of it, but unless we have like something that we have to stick to in terms of
I don't think so. I'm curious to know. I think this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's an angle not a lot of people know about. It's like you've been to the other side and you're coming back with all this knowledge, and so it's interesting. But what kind of I mean, you mentioned that, like I was going to ask about like what kind of fires you would put out, and you mentioned leaks, but like I am curious what other kind of stuff.
I mean, I remember one. I mean, I'm trying to think of there's always some fire going on, right? There's always like, hey, we're behind schedule on this. Like we didn't get, I'm trying to think of like, like, oh, like they're not happy. Consumer products needs like this thing. They need this. Hey, you got a picture of SpongeBob brushing his teeth? You're like, what are you? I have to comb through the episode and find a picture of SpongeBob.
Oh man, that's such a pain in the ass.
There's a campaign. There's these are all hypothetical. These are not really. But like Crest, Crest is coming in. They have this huge like need for SpongeBob brushing his teeth. Can you get as many clips as you can as possible of SpongeBob brushing his teeth? And you have to have that knowledge. You have to go in and be like, okay, I'm gonna go through all these episodes, scrub through them, have maybe some kind of idea of SpongeBob brushing his teeth. That would happen all the time. Or like,
wow.
So when when a show gets into development, and you're pretty sure it's going to get greenlit, you have to actually go in and register, make sure that all the names are trademarked, right? So you can like do that. And that is public information. Someone had found out, I remember I did this stuff for Korra. I did the Legend of Korra, Avatar, the Legend of Korra. I looked up like I did the registration for that. And immediately people on the internet were like, just filed, trademark for Avatar Legend of Korra. We got our spinoff, guys. I was like, oh my God, how are they doing this? How are people are going online and finding this stuff out? They would do stuff that I remember like on Turtles, there was a big problem that they would have dull out character information during a timeline, but they posted it on the website, but like, had it hidden. They would like time out when they would do it. Someone found out the password and then like leaked all this information out. And you're like, oh,
whoa,
all these spoilers were out. And like, especially a show like Turtles and a show like Korra, you're like, spoilers are just like, you're going to piss off your creators. You're going to piss off the team. And you're like, you got to but everyone needs information to do their job. Right. So you're so scary to like doll out this information to everyone. Like you're working with all these different arms of the business. You're like, please do not share this to anyone else. And they're sharing with their partners because they want to know how to like, we got to know what happens at the end of the season to like market this. Like,
oh man, that's hard, dude.
I'm getting sweaty just revisiting some.
Yeah, it's like flashbacks. That's a hard job. Like you telling me I'm getting sweaty. Like that sounds exhausting, and it also kind of sounds like there's no real right way to do it. I think like with an art job, you sort of know your lane and you sort of know what your tasks are and what you have to do. But with a job like that, it's just like it's constantly shifting and you're constantly dealing with like network pressures and all this shit. So like, yeah, it's not easy. It's kind of an, what's the word? Like, uncelebrated job of animation.
It's
like
definitely an uncelebrated job. No one knows. I mean, again, all the credit goes to like, you go to like award ceremonies and people are like, thank you for the development executives that believed in me. And you're like, wait, what about?
Yeah. Oh, no.
No one cares about the current series team. But like, but the good thing is that like with all that chaos that happens, you never are bored. I was never bored. I'd never had a day where I was bored. I was like, there's always a new thing. And they'd be like, okay, there's a Korra fire I got to take care of. Okay, got that. There's a SpongeBob fire I got to take care of. Okay, got it. There's a Harvey Beaks fire I got to take care of. Okay, got that. You're never bored. You're always like moving. That's
nice. That does sound good. I actually love that kind of like. I feel like that's a job that I could do and would enjoy. But
it's a great job. I'm always like trying to push people to be like, look, we need like there are not enough executives out there, and man, we need them. We need good execs, and we need people like a variety of execs.
I do wish that I think there's a lot of people who don't draw and they want to work in animation, and so but they don't know like what else can I do, and so they try to get into production, which is also that's a valid path, but yeah, like that sort of the executive side on the network is also like very valuable, and you actually have input on a lot of stuff. Like you can sort of help sway decision making, and to some degree, depending on how high up you are, I guess.
Of course, I mean, yeah. I mean, all that's yeah. I really don't have anything actually else to add. That was really well put, Gene. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
I was gonna ask Brandon, like, so you went straight to being an exec, or did you or were you in production for a hot second before being an exec?
No, I was never on the production side.
Okay.
Never on the production side. I mean, I was always like so jealous of that too, because I'd see like the camaraderie and like how much fun productions had, and I was like,
oh no,
I'm gonna be part of that. But no, I was never on the production side. Always the executive side.
And did you start as like what's the ladder looking like for execs? Is it just like, are you just like exec and that's it, or is there like assistant to an executive and then you like, because I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, you just so the phrase, a lot of people in Hollywood in the business will hear the phrase "get on a desk," which means start off as an assistant, because that's the best way to. That's one of the most effective ways to move up the ladder in the biz. So I got on the desk I was an assistant to two executives, and then you move your way up. Then you're on most shows you have two executives. You have your lead exec, and then you have your second exec. So your second exec could be a coordinator, a manager, a director. Which is what I was at when I was at Nickelodeon. I was always a second executive. I had a couple of shows that I oversaw by myself, but for the most part, I was mostly second, and I liked being second. I didn't like to be like the head executive, because, man, that's a lot of work.
What's the difference between being head executive and second executive?
I'd say the biggest part is that a lot of people are if you're the first executive, you are the one that most people. I mean, I was like the support, right? The second's usually the support. Like, what do you need? What can I do for you? What are the assignments I need? Like, a lot of the times a head executive isn't going to have time to, again, let's use a previous example, SpongeBob brushing his teeth. Mm-hmm. They have other things to do. They're not going to have time to scrub through the episodes to SpongeBob brushing their teeth. That's what I would do. Okay. Things like smaller tasks that I could handle, I would do that. But your lead executive is going to have the tough conversations. They're going to be the ones that have the direct line to showrunners. They're the ones that are going to have the tough conversations. They're the ones that are, going to be doing like basically the really hard parts of the job, because hey, guess what? That's what they're getting paid for.
Sure, yeah. Well, that stuff is really interesting, but let's talk about your writing, because I mean that's like what you always wanted to do. And I remember when you were offered that first gig and like the sort of the stress. Well, first of all, actually, we should mention, because you did move to Netflix at one point. You were at Nick for a long time, and then you went over to Netflix, right?
Right. Yeah, Netflix was just starting up doing their animation, doing the animation studio, and they were grabbing about it, like, they were grabbing a bunch of executives, built out their team. And I got a call being like, hey, are you interested in talking with Netflix about joining the animation team? And I was like, I'm pretty happy at Nickelodeon. Like, I love my shows, love my artists. I love my boss, love my team. I don't really have an interest in moving. And they're like, well, we're going to pay you double. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
Nickelodeon. I was like, are you hyperbole? Like, actual double? And they're like, yeah, we're going to pay you double. And I was like, okay, Nickelodeon's been great. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, bye.
some good times, but I'm gonna take that Chetty. So
yeah. Well, you had a baby, you did, right? And like it's hard to turn that down.
It was hard to turn that down. It was hard. It was also hard to walk away too, because again, I did love my shows. You build a rapport with the artists, and when, like I said, I was a good executive at my job at Nickelodeon. It was easy, and I knew what I was doing. I was easy. I knew my people, and there was a comfort there that I had. So it was scary to go, but again, I'm not going to turn down that. I'm not going to turn that sweet paycheck. So I left to go to Netflix. And when you're at Netflix, I don't know if it's changed now, but at the time that the executives on the animation team were doing both development and current series, you had to do both.
Which makes sense. I feel like it's weird that a lot of studios, I think it's changing, but at least for a long time, it's like you were saying, there would be development executives and then they would, pass it on to a current series exec, which is weird only because I feel like then there's no like ownership and you almost have to start from scratch with building those relationships.
Yeah.
And, it's odd. So yeah, you were at Netflix for a little bit, But then you got a magical offer to write on, can you say?
Yeah, it wasn't writing. I mean, it wasn't a staff gig or anything like that. So
Okay.
because, I mean, I probably can't talk too much about it. It's probably the extent I can talk about. But
Sure.
because I was a second executive on The Legend of Korra, got to know Mike and Brian really well. And they were like, hey, I think we're going to, I had a relationship with those guys, and they knew that I was actually writing. I forgot this. I was writing at nighttime when I was an executive, when I was doing current series stuff. I was at Nickelodeon. I would go home and write doing children's manuscripts after work.
Damn. Yeah.
I was doing that for fun as a hobby to hopefully like try to sell a book. And Mike and Brian knew that with my being their second executive, you get to know the showrunners pretty well.
Yeah. You become friends, really.
Yeah, you become friends. Yeah, totally. And they were like, hey, we're gonna, Avatar live action series. This might be happening. I was like, wow, congratulations, guys. That sounds awesome. And I'm like, well, we're gonna have a writer's room. Do you want to join us? And I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I need to think about this, because I had been at Netflix for less than a year, and making that jump was a huge jump. It's terrifying. It'd be like it'd be hitting Control-Alt-Delete on your entire career.
Right.
And again, I mean, you guys know, you guys are on you're that hustle from show to show. Like when you're an executive, when your show ends, it doesn't really affect you. You just get another show, right?
Right.
I was like, oh my God, like I'm like, when this show ends, what am I going to do after this? Like, I was like totally spiraling.
Welcome to our world.
It's terrible. It's terrible. This is the reason why I didn't do that in the first place. And I also, I was like, the pay is, I was joining on as a script coordinator. The pay is like a third of what I was making at Netflix as an executive.
Yeah. Remember when you said double? Now you go back.
Yeah. Now I'm going like, way back down. And I was just like in agony. And then my wife was like, by the way, I'm pregnant again. I was like, oh God. I was just painful. Like, totally just like, it was like probably one of the worst like moments of my life. I was just up all night stressing about this, being like, do I do this? Do I not? Do I do this? Do I not?
It's so interesting, because I have like a friend who like went through a situation that is so similar. For him, the thing was like he had a good offer going back to France, but like leaving LA to go back to a good gig in France, it was so nerve-wracking, because it's like, is this the right choice? Like, am I because like LA in everybody's like mind is like, this is where it's at. So it's like kind of like your dilemma, where it's like, oh, like this is the gig that everybody wants, right? Being like a high ranking exec, and then going to writing. Yeah. Ooh, is this the right choice? Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dream job. I mean, I love those guys. I love the property. I remember I was in college when the Avatar premiered, and I skipped a kegger to go watch this cartoon. I skipped a fraternity kegger to go watch this cartoon.
You fucking nerd.
Yeah, totally. And so my wife was like, I know who you are at your core. You're going to be really fucking annoying for the rest of your life if you don't take this job. So from my sake, go take this job.
What a good wife.
Yeah.
So I took it and I left. And so it was, again, I can't talk too much about it. I will say this though. It was like, one of the best times of my life. It was just me and the two guys goofing around. It was so much fun. I learned so much about like live action. I will say this. Let me say this for the podcast. There's so much lies out there about rumors that are so false about the show. Like, it's bananas. You go on the internet and see conspiracy theory videos. Here, I got the inside scoop about what's happening at Netflix and Avatar.
Yeah, Brandon, it's the internet.
And they're like these well-produced videos, and they're lies. They're total lies.
It's all just clickbait bullshit.
Dude, it's so funny. Like,
how do you sleep at night?
It's so crazy. Like, when I was on Thundercast for, people were just like me and my friends on the show, it was a battle, because you see like the most blatant like conspiracy theories, and you're like, okay, I cannot engage, because the minute I engage, it's over for all of us.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I gotta just like watch this and just something and nobody else can know it.
Yeah, I always knew the fandom was, it's huge, and someone sent me a link, because I had drawn on the whiteboard a picture of Aang waving. Like,
oh God, what did you do? No.
I said like something like, "Welcome to the office, everybody." And like Brian took a picture of it, posted it on his Instagram, and said, "Brandon Hoang is our new art director," as a joke.
Oh no, that's his fault. Okay, you did
Yeah.
nothing wrong.
As a joke, right? Clearly a joke. And like on this Reddit thread, it's like, all right, good. Here's the news, guys. This someone named Brandon Huang is confirmed as the art director. I'm like,
Oh my
what is
God.
happening right now? Like, it's all it takes.
That's all
But
it
they
takes.
actually had grounds. They actually had grounds to like kind of like go completely nuts because like there was like text and a picture linked to a name. Yeah, it's even crazier when they just like make stuff up from thin air, and you're like, and then
Yeah.
for some reason that catches on, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's just white noise. Like I feel like all that stuff is just white noise.
I just can't believe, like, how can you sleep at night? How can you sleep at night?
Oh, they make good YouTube ad revenue money. That's how they sleep at night. It doesn't matter to them.
When can we sell our secrets? When can I cash in on that?
Anytime you could do it anytime, but you got to be on some good anxiety meds to not lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
You have to have no shame. That's what it is. You have to have no shame.
No shame and be prepared to never work in this town again.
Oh God, wouldn't that be something?
I feel like honestly though, like don't people just kind of like forget eventually? Like you give it a couple of years and then it's just like, it's just like water under the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody like forgot everything about like I don't know what was a big scandal that like everybody forgot about.
There's been so many. I don't know. That's the thing. Yeah, you're right though. It's like nobody remembers that stuff. Especially once the show comes out, it's like everything before it just like poof, like completely evaporates. Like nobody even thinks about it anymore.
I don't know.
But yeah, and then you moved up to actual writing, but you probably can't say what you're working on, or can you?
No, I can say it. So yeah, I mean, and then basically when my job was up there, I was like, okay, guys, like I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna try to get staff somewhere. So I left, and then it was actually right before COVID hit. I was like, I'm gonna spend some time with my girls, and then I'm gonna try to work on some book writing and like maybe like do some freelance, or in the meantime try to get staffed. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually watching my girls full time now, and I have to write.
Mm-hmm. That job ain't easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this is not part time. This is a real time thing that's happening. So I got a couple freelance scripts through, again, some friends of mine that were because I was some friends of mine that knew me as an exec knew that I was doing the writing jump. So I got a couple freelance scripts for, I don't think it's announced yet, so I'm not going to say the name, but a Netflix bridge show, preschool bridge show. For that, and that was
we should probably say what that is because that's some jargon that might not be super
yeah, preschool, we all know preschool shows, but bridge is like a step right above that, right? So it's like you don't have an educational component, but it's still like preschool-ish.
I would say the closest thing is probably Santiago of the Seas, right? Nikki's show.
Yeah, I think so.
That's like a step above.
Yeah. What are some other like bridge shows like
Oh, not Paw Patrol. That's pure
No,
junior.
that's definitely
Would you say
preschool.
like Loud House? No, Loud House is like family.
No.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a 6 to 11, but I think it's definitely younger skewing. But anyway, yeah, it's a new thing that's sort of more studios are doing, which is cool. I mean, there's a lot more. This is sort of an aside, but it is cool. I feel like a lot more networks are trying to go outside of those restrictive demographics where it's like, what is it for kids? You probably know, Brandon. It's like 3 to 5. What is like the junior demographic?
Actually, don't. I mean, like I know that the your Korras, your at Nickelodeon specifically, it was like your Korras, your Turtles, your Loud Houses. That's 6 to 11. Again, that maybe the goal changed, and then but like 6 to 11 is like
that's what they're marketing.
The range
for.
that's like tattooed on my brain.
Yeah. And it's funny, a lot of shows, like pretty much every show that's not a junior, like, baby show is 6 to 11. And that's how they're marketed. And everything from like Invader Zim to Loud House, which is like, that's all the same demographic, which is bonkers because they are completely different shows.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard a new kind of slot opening, which is like family. They have like a different way of like calling like a show family, but basically like a show that is targeted as for parents to watch with their kids.
Four quad.
Okay, that's what it is.
Far quad, like in Shrek?
Yes.
Okay.
They just want to make more and more Shrek. Everyone's just trying to make Shrek.
It's the name of the villain, right? Farquaad.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It's all just jargon. It's all just like, stuff to put on press releases, really.
Yeah, V, but you're right though. 4 quad, right? So you got 4 quadrants. You got your mom, your dad, your
And daughter and son.
your girl, your boy.
The good 1950s nuclear family that is still relevant.
Yeah.
Mom, dad, son, dog.
That's it. That's
Gotta
it.
mark it to the dog.
You forgot the daughter, Gene.
Well, sorry. It's like Leave It to Beaver. It's just a young boy. This is the nuclear family, V. This is what we're all aspiring to, clearly. But no, fuck all that. But but then there's also a young adult demo that it doesn't really exist yet. Everyone wants it to exist, but I do feel like there's a strong push for it where
I don't know. I feel like I'm really excited about people doing like animation for young adults, but I also wonder sometimes like what are young adult like actually consuming in terms of like media.
Don't say it out loud. The executives will hear it. They won't want to do it. I think that I think a lot of the stuff that we like Korra might as well have been a young adult show.
Oh yeah, 100%. I consider it to be young adult.
Yeah, and I think Brandon maybe might be able to contribute to this more, but I feel like if that demographic existed, there would be a lot less shackles on certain things, and so the showrunners would be able to flex more and do more mature themes, and it doesn't make it the show, it doesn't have to be super violent or show sex or have swearing, but there's just a little bit more maturity you can bake into those shows without feeling like you're shoehorning it in. Maybe you can contribit more to that.
No, I mean, it just doesn't exist yet, right? I mean, everything you guys are saying is right. It doesn't exist. That
right. That's
that corner doesn't exist. There's a big black hole.
I guess except for anime, I consider anime to be YA.
That's exactly it, though. You're right. I should have. Yeah, anime is that, and it's crazy to me that it's such a humongous market and it's all teenagers, and yet networks don't want to admit that it is an untapped market for Western cartoons. But I don't know. Whatever. I think it has to come around eventually. I think it has to. Gene. And
here's my wild theory right now. That's what I keep saying. The more young people that get anime, that again, all these are we're all of us are consumers of anime, right? And I feel like the more these people that are getting in there, the younger people that know this, that are getting in there and rising the ranks as executives, will have that power someday to see that.
Yeah, be the change you want to see. And I think that like I said earlier, even if you don't draw, even if you don't even want to write or whatever, if you believe in animation, get on someone's desk, work your way up and try to get to those positions where you can listen to what the audiences are saying. You can try to help push forward those projects, because there's not enough executives in those positions of power that get it, quote unquote, get it. But because you've had a project in development and you probably don't want to talk about it, but which is fair. But
I mean, I talked about it a little bit.
Okay, I would love to hear sort of what you can say, because your perspective on it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I left, that opened up an opportunity for me. When I left the executive life, that opened up the opportunity for me to pitch, right? Because now I'm not an executive, I don't have conflict of interest. And there was an idea I had. I also don't want to speak too much about it too, because it's also not just my story to tell. You guys familiar with Hoang? He's I
know him through you.
He was a college stylist on Steven Universe, on Zim. He was the lead color on the latest Adventure Time. And also did a ton of work with Natasha Allegri on Being Puppy Cat. He's a beast. He's incredible. Yeah. He's an incredible talent. So him and I,
talented dude,
had a show. And it was awesome. We actually had interest from both Amazon when they were doing kids content at the time and Netflix. And we went with Netflix at the time, which was it turned out to be the right thing, because Amazon kid division closed shortly after.
Lucky.
And so we had a show in development, and we were this close. You guys can't see me, but my fingers are so...
I can feel it. I can feel you doing it.
My thumb and forefinger are literally almost touching.
Oh, it's so close. I can feel it.
So close. We were right there at the finish line, and then they pulled. We had the studio. We had the studio locked in. Our dream studio we had locked in. We were so sure it was going to get greenlit. We were like, painful. We were doing production. We were doing budget meetings for planning for season 2. I was starting to plan a writer's room. Hans was starting, Hans and I had a bunch of artists that we had in mind for designers and board artists and directors. We were ready to go. And it got pulled right at it was literally, we heard not the Netflix, but it was But
Yeah.
What can you say the reason? Like, did they give you a reason why, or and can you say, or is it all top secret?
no, it's not a secret. I mean, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing, and here's the truth about anytime you're gonna get it. Anytime someone passes on your show, you're never really gonna know the actual real reason why.
And
Yeah.
do you know why we can't know? Is it because there are too many reasons?
No, I'm just saying that like this is like it's almost like a strategy, right? Because I mean, there are, I don't know. One, I should say, take what I say with a grain of salt. Like, don't take what I'm saying as any truth. I encourage you to ask other development executives that do this. But I feel like for me, if they tell you exactly what's wrong, I hate the mom character, then what are you going to say? Oh, okay, we'll get rid of her, right? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You're not going to get specific because then you're just going to keep going in circles. So it's got to, yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense? It
does make sense. It's like, but at the same time, also, I wonder if like I guess what my question was like, is there like usually one reason or like maybe like up to 3 reasons, or is it usually that it's so many reasons, so many things going on that there's no way that anyone could pinpoint it anyway?
I mean, who knows? It's a big mystery. I mean, I think you're both of the things you said are right. It could be one specific thing, or it could be, I posted this on Twitter a while ago when I did a tweet saying that, that Netflix had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying the development process is like a stack of sliced Swiss cheese.
Yeah, you told me that once, and I still quote you on that.
I know. I was talking with Matt Bradley about it too, and he was like, it's so true. It's a slice of stacked Swiss cheese, and imagine each individual slice is rotating at its own speed. And you, to get a show greenlit, take a pencil and drop it from the top. And that pencil has to go through the hole of every single slice of stack of Swiss cheese without touching anything and make it through the bottom. If it bumps on any slice, your show's dead. So it is a miracle. It is a miracle any show ever gets greenlit.
It's winning the lottery.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a miracle anything gets made. I don't know. And it's really like, yeah, something I've had to kind of come to terms with is that it's like it's not your project. It's not you. It's not anything. It's like generally, yeah, it's just like things that we don't understand. And like you said, Brandon, it's like even the executives that are on your project usually don't have any say in it, and they're doing their best, and then something changes up above and they just are like, they probably have to like, I'm sure that having to make that phone call to their artist is like agonizing. It's like breaking up with somebody. It like sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I thankfully didn't have to do that, but that's one of the reasons why I hated development. It's too much power. I hated having too much power. I hated being like, I can change the fate of someone's entire life right now.
Oh God, right? Yeah, God, that's so much. Yeah,
I could write an email right now and pass on someone's project and be like, no, it's not for us. Anyway, okay, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, knowing how much effort they put into it. Yeah,
and that's what happens. I mean, it's a brutal process, but I mean, the thing is that it was so fun to be a showrunner for like 0.2 seconds that like that was great. I love that. So we're taking the animatic. We got a great animatic out of it. We worked with some awesome people. So we are Hans is currently working on the animatic and make some tweaks to kind of bring it back to a place that we originally want it to be.
Sure.
And we're gonna go out again. And we have executives that are already that know about it and that are waiting to see it. So I hope that.
Good luck, man. Yeah, I really like it. I've seen it and it's awesome, and like it really speaks to the kind of stuff that you like. And this is my segue into like your influences and sort of like the kind of stuff that you want to make, like the kind of stuff that you're trying to live up to. And I think that your project really reflects everything that you had told me you wanted to pay homage to and kind of like, do in your own way. But let's talk about that. Like, tell me your biggest sort of influences and like what kind of stuff you're kind of inspired you and what you're trying to, it's a weird question to ask, but it's like what you're trying to live up to, like what kind of content.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this right now that it took me a while to kind of realize what I actually like. I'm very curious if you guys actually have the same thing. Like, I had such a big variety of stuff that I consumed as a kid, and it took me a long time and I think I'm trying to still figure that out. Like, what other stuff that really resonated with me that elevated a show or a book or any kind of media from like oh, I like that, to like, oh my God, I love this.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a real
Alright.
sensitive kid, and I still
Mhm.
like still am. I was a big crier. Like I would be moved by
Aw.
stuff and would cry a lot. Yeah, I remember.
Aw.
I read do you guys ever read Lewis Sacker? He did like Sideways Stories from Wayside School. He did the book Holes.
Okay, yeah, I've read Holes, yeah.
There was a book that he wrote called There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom, and I remember reading that book and sobbing at the end of it because
Wow.
the ending just wasn't fair. I was like, no, I didn't get to say goodbye. And and I was crying. So I finished it in the morning before school. My mom was like, what the hell is happening?
What happened to you?
And I couldn't
Yeah.
explain it. And she was like,
Who was the book, Mom?
yeah, she's like, I'm going to keep you home from school, I guess. So I stayed home from school because I could not like stop thinking about this book and crying from it. And I was like,
Wow.
so I think I love comedy. I love like stuff that makes you laugh. But I also like that stuff with like I like the shows and the books that can do both.
Right. Yeah.
I like really like that slice of life. I love stuff that's like I can laugh in an episode and I can really think about. I can walk away really thinking about stuff. Do you guys? All right. Here's a big influence for you. Do you remember that? I loved Batman the Animated Series.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure 1,000 people that you're gonna have on here are gonna say that, right?
Not yet.
Actually, we've had a lot of people that haven't talked. We've always been talking about anime. There has been less episodes not about anime.
Yeah, it always comes back to anime.
Well, it's funny because I didn't get into anime until recently, because I started watching it when I would realize that all the board artists in board pitches were like making anime jokes and talking about their influence in anime. And I was like Hannah Yubi would like talk about Sailor Moon all the time and like make jokes.
Yes, she does.
And I was like, I gotta start watching this. I gotta start like, how can I be an executive giving notes on board artist stuff and not know what they're watching?
Yeah, that's good though.
I would start like asking people, like, what are you watching? What should I be watching? And then like figuring out from there. I remember I was sick one day. I had the flu for like 2 days, and I binged all of Sailor Moon on Hulu, and I was like, this is incredible. This is so fucking funny. It hits that sweet spot for me. So I actually didn't start watching anime until I was like in my 20s.
I do love about, I guess it's like late 80s, like early 90s anime that like the biggest hits, like early Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Ranma and a Half, they're like really, really good at balancing action, comedy, and like heartfelt moments. And I
Yeah.
feel like
That's my umami, V.
yeah, I know. It's really I feel you. It's like I've seen like that's what I've always wanted to do and like what I've always strived for, but it's extremely difficult. And I feel like for the longest time in my life I was like, well, there's no way I'm ever going to write, because how am I ever going to be good at action and heart and comedy at the same time? And you know what I'm saying? And like have like these like compelling characters and those like overarching storylines and all that like crazy stuff. And I was like, that it's really hard to do it well.
It is hard, but I think that's also, we've been taught to constrict ourselves from it a little bit, and that's because like that, going back to the previous conversation, like that young adult demographic doesn't exist, and a lot of that stuff sits in that demographic. And a lot of Western kids cartoons just like weren't allowed to have that kind of drama. It's like really rare. It's hard to find when we were growing up. Now it's everywhere because or it's at least, more common to find because a lot of those creators grew up with anime, and like that's where they're pulling that stuff out of, is all of that.
I don't know.
like-
I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I just think
Yeah.
that it's just extremely hard to do. It's just extremely hard to like write skillfully, and that you just like, like when you, for one title, like a Ranma or Sailor Moon, you have like thousands like of titles, even maybe like hundreds of thousands. So it's
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
you found they found this gem in like a sea of like other titles, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe people are gonna like be really upset with saying that, but it's like there's like a little bit of like, oh, like the battle of who can like do this, like who's like the most competitive person that wants to hone in these crafts and will master them,
Yeah.
because like it's not just like about wanting to do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that it is hard, but I know that comedy is very hard to do, and like Drama is usually a little bit easier. I mean, that's why soap operas exist, because it's easy to just cram in some sudden twists and make something dramatic, but like comedy is very hard. But anyway, I don't know. I think I'm losing the plot on what we're talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about influences and like Brandon watching anime.
Yeah.
No, I think you're both. I mean, I'm gonna say you're both right. It's really fucking hard, but also there are people that like. I feel like it's like, wait, is this a comedy or is this action? What are you trying to do here? You know what I mean? You're constantly. I think it's gonna take a wave. Going back to my thing about getting a more variety of executives in there, it's gonna take this people being like, these shows work, man. These shows that can do both.
Yeah.
Slice of life, heartfelt comedy, they exist. They can do well, but. V, you're also right. They're really fucking hard to do, but it's a worthy endeavor. I think when it's done right, it does well.
I feel like you can sell like a show with like, I mean, not like you can sell like that. It's easy to do, but like you might go in with a strategy of like, okay, this is like a heartfelt show, but like, and that's kind of like the front aspect of it, but it doesn't prevent you from putting comedy in that show like later, you know, or action if it calls for it, you know. But I feel like you can always kind of like, you can always have all the ingredients. It's just like there's one that's going to take a little bit of like the front, I don't know, like the front seat.
V, I'm gonna send you our animatic for that show.
I want to see it so bad.
That's what we tried to do in that episode, and we really tried to do like we try to explain where like it's a slice of life action, and there's gonna be some emotional shit that happens in it, and like. It's hard to like people to wrap their heads around what that means. Like, what kind of show is this? What are you talking about?
I totally feel you. I feel like I've been trying more and more now to find references for the shows that I kind of want to pitch to be like, this is the tone of the show. So that when I talk about it with someone who has no idea what I'm talking about, like they're kind of like, oh, okay, I've seen that famous movie. I see kind of what you're going for.
Yeah, that's good to do.
And also I realized, like, I don't know about you guys, but like I love slapstick, and there's not that much content with slapstick in it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like Looney Tunes. Yeah, that's kind of like an older form of comedy, I think, that a lot of kids just don't.
I'm talking even like for example like slapstick, like the Pink Panther, like the movies, or like the Naked Gun,
right.
Like that kind of slapstick that is kind of like realistic-ish, but at the same time it's like so goofy. I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of like my jam.
That's your jam.
A friend of mine who is a writer as well, he has a pitch that is like Naked Gun, like those kind of like, but for kids, like that kind of goofy, like it's really, really good. It's really, really funny.
Well, going back to the influences.
Oh yeah.
So like, what kind of stuff? You said you're into games, and like, what kind of stuff do you feel like influences your writing?
Yeah, totally. Well, wait. First, before I do that, let me answer that question. But let me go back to finish my thought about Batman and the animated series.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. We interrupted.
So my favorite episode, and this will kind of tie into that. Don't worry. I'll do a beautiful segue.
Oh boy, I can't wait. Okay, hit us.
So my favorite episode of Batman the Animated Series is the one where, what was it called? I think it was called See No Evil. And it was the one where this villain, like, I might get the details messed up, but he invents this material that turns him invisible. And he, like, in the stories about like him trying to see his daughter because he doesn't have custody of her anymore. And it's just like really like, one, how like adult of a plot is that to like have this villain like wanting just to like spend some time with his daughter. So he's this villain that like steals jewels so he can like give his daughter some of the best stuff. And then Batman takes him down and beats the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Just like an anime where you care so much about the villains, and it's like,
it's so sad. I remember watching the episode as a kid and being like, it's my favorite episode. And to this day, I was like, this is the best episode of Batman the Animated Series. And it's this really sad story. So I love the ones that are like, that has a bit of sadness in it, that has a little bit of like, will leave you thinking about it. Like, I remember like watching the episode and going, laying in bed, like staring at the ceiling and being like, what did I just watch? Why am I feeling this way? Like kind of process these like thoughts. So So yeah, kind of that kind of stuff that like again like has that mix of both. I love it all. If you can do a show, you know, you can do a show or a game that has action, adventure, and kind of sadness. Did you guys ever look at? Did you guys ever watch? Did you guys ever look at Zach Gorman's Magical Game Time? Those comics that he used to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think Zach does a great job of doing that stuff. Of doing that too with those.
But Brandon, there's a game that has all of those things.
Yes, I know you're baiting me. I'm the little fish that's going around the hook. I can see it out.
What is the name of that game, though? I'm trying to.
You were talking about a little bit of Earthbound now?
Oh, that's what it is. It's Earthbound. Let's talk about Earthbound.
Ooh, Earthbound is so good on so many levels, and not just because it's got those 3 ingredients.
It's a fantastic game.
But that was a huge influence for the show we had in development with Hans and I.
Yeah,
because that was a big influence for us. I didn't grow up playing Earthbound. I remember seeing it in the store. And I remember I had asked my dad to buy it for me, and I don't know why he didn't do it. I think he saw the number.
Did it say there was like violence or something?
No, I honestly think it was like he showed me the back of it, and I think that there was like the HP, like the the little like the bar at the bottom would show your HP or your SP, and I was like, oh, is this a math game? And I was like, oh, never.
I love that like you're repelled by math to an extent that is like almost cartoony.
I'm so repelled by math. I was like, oh wait, this has math in it. I have to add stuff up. Like, yeah, get me out of here.
Oh, you missed out.
But then looking at like all the fan art and seeing like all the discourse about Earthbound and what it was and what this game could be, and that was it. I mean, I haven't finished it. I have not finished the game all the way through, but I played a large chunk of it. But wow, can we just talk about this? You guys say something about Earthbound. I feel like I'm talking too much about Earthbound here. What do you guys think about it?
I think we can talk about it for a bunch because we have never talked about it on this podcast.
We've never brought it up. I've been saving it for your episode. Yeah, Earthbound, and it's interesting because it keeps rippling through more and more projects. Like I know so many people that are using it as like, one of their like pillars of influence, and like it sucks that it is not in the mainstream. It has such an impact on like the art community.
Yeah. And
yet no executive knows what it is. And so
let me tell you how fun it is to sit down to do a pitch and you're like, all right, so it's Earthbound. And they're like, what?
What's that? Yeah.
Oh boy, this is gonna go really, really well.
It's hard.
I wonder if there's like anything, because for me, like what I really love about Earthbound is kind of like how it's almost surrealistic, and it's almost like you're playing like a dream. Like it's not a dream because you're going through towns, you're doing like actual stuff, but there's like an element of it that you're like this isn't real because you're this little kid all by himself, just like riding his bicycle through. He's got friends, but like you're doing like you're basically living like a grown-up life. Like you phone your like that element of just phoning your dad for money.
I love that. That's my favorite part of the game.
It's like it's like it's really interesting, and for me,
really sad game too.
Yeah.
It's a sad game. It takes it, but it's also so funny too. Yeah. It's so
quirky.
It's so weird, and they're like, "All right, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and fight this drunk Japanese businessman, I guess."
Yeah, there's a lot of like deep commentary. I mean, I've watched a large share of video essays about Earthbound, and like there's so much complexity to a lot of its themes and stuff too. It's like very anti-capitalist. Like I don't know, there's a lot of stuff.
I could be wrong with this, but what I really love about early video games is that people didn't really like think about them too hard, and they just put a bunch of like elements that they liked in it, and some of them were just like, oh yeah, this thing from life, and then this thing that I saw in a fairy tale.
Yeah, there's like Blues Brothers references in it. Like it's weird.
Why are you guys drawing Earthbound right now? Why is this not?
Oh my god, I don't know.
All right,
erase all this bullshit. What the fuck am I drawing?
Just put a red hat on me.
Why aren't you? Yeah, that's it. Why aren't you drawing, Brandon? That's what I want.
I know. I tried to, but I can't do both. I tried.
Yeah, it's
hard.
It's hard. We're on episode 11, and so we're just getting better at it.
And also, we're just listening to you talk.
That's true. We're just listening.
But that's one of the beauties. That's one of the beautiful parts about Earthbound, and a lot of the kind of the great staples that people have thrown up and have said there's time is that you ask someone about Earthbound that knows the game, and they're going to tell you almost every single time something different that they love about it.
That's true. That's true.
Like I've never heard like V's answer about talking about it's surreal. It's like this dream. I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, that's not something I would say.
God, what a beautiful answer. What a beautiful answer.
For me, it's like I love the feeling of a group of kids on an adventure that's like bigger than them, you know, and like I remember playing it and I loved that it was just like baseball bats and yo-yos and shit like that. And to this day, it's like, why aren't there more games that have that kind of feel that's like just a group of kids out on an adventure? Everything has to be this like crazy Final Fantasy batshit, like over the top thing. And it's like, hey, I kind of just would love a well-written game that's about kids. I actually really like Undertale is obviously very inspired by Earthbound. And I think that's part of why people like it is that like the main character is just a kid and like, it kind of helps ground it. And I don't know, there's just something nice about that grounded feeling of like, you know, for the protagonists.
Gene, you can't see me right now, but I'm in the back with my arm in the air, waving like a Southern Baptist. Like, oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Well, yeah. And it's because, you know, I've seen your animatic and I know that that's something that you really appreciate about it too is, and the closest thing to bring up, I guess, when you're talking to executives is like Goonies.
Yeah.
I think like, or like It maybe, you know, but that's kind of got its own baggage with it. So it's like,
and that's why Stranger Things was so was so well, because Stranger Things was like the only piece of media that came out recently where you had kids going on an actual adventure.
Now that's what you got. Yeah, that's the reference you got to drop if you want people to get it. But it's like, that's not quite right. Like, it doesn't have the whimsy. Like, Earthbound has a whimsy to it and this like quirkiness. I love quirkiness. Is such an hard to define concept, but I feel like my work like oozes it, and I don't know how else to explain it or explain the like marketability of it.
I feel like maybe like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like references like maybe like all of the books by I'm gonna say his name wrong. Roald Dahl. This guy, because it's like quirky and it's funny.
Yeah, but it's I mean, it is. It's adjacent to it, but it's not. I mean, but you know, and like I said, like quirky is hard to define, and it's kind of, it depends on who the creator is. It'll be a different definition. But yeah, it's something about like the sort of non sequitur nature of it, and like just oddball shit, and like designs that don't adhere to even its own internal logic. You know, like you can just kind of do whatever, but as long as it all is consistent in its like delivery. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's a difficult concept to articulate.
I think that's why I kind of call it surrealistic in that way. You know, when you look at paintings by Salvador, I cannot say the names with the English accent. Salvador
Say
Dali.
It in French. Who cares?
Like, it makes sense when you watch his paintings. When you look at his paintings, like his like universe makes sense, but it's so weird.
Yeah. There's a set of rules within the painting that makes it feel like it somewhat makes sense.
I don't know.
Everything's melting, and so you're like, oh, I guess everything's melting. And Earthbound, it's just like everyone's weird. Like, I don't know, like everyone's kind of sad. Like that, I don't know. There's definitely some internal rules to Earthbound that you just kind of accept. It's like, there's a big pencil in the road. How do you get rid of it? You find a big eraser. Like that's the how you solve that puzzle. And you're like, all right, sure.
Yeah. Man, that game. I mean, I should do more in depth. I'm sure there's more essays and stuff.
Yeah, there's lots.
Yeah, there's a comic online that someone did of the origin of that story. You should, if you haven't seen it before, you should read it. It's really good, about the creator and how his it's like a little mini comic about how he created the game, and it's really good. I don't know.
I think I have seen it. Yeah. Well, the way that is it where he talks about like how he came up with the idea of the final boss.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I think it's worth looking up. There's a lot of cool little backstory to Earthbound. And also, like, Mother 3 is a fantastic sequel. It's a painful game. Like, it's just even more emotionally traumatizing than Earthbound pretty much right off the bat.
I know Hans has been pressuring me so much to like find a way to play, but we can't play it, right? You have to like find an emulator or something.
You gotta find a ROM. I played it as an emulator, as a ROM, like a decade ago, maybe more.
A PC, Brendan, don't you?
I do have a PC, yes.
Yeah, but we don't pirate games. Shut up.
Well, doesn't the creator have a Patreon?
Yeah, Nintendo refuses to port it for some stupid fucking reason.
They need to do this on like Mother's Day, right? They need to like, come on.
Oh,
Big
man.
campaign. Why does Nintendo they just love leaving money on the table? They love it.
They really, really do. This is not. I don't want to go into a video game discussion because like I actually think Nintendo has done a lot right and with this cycle with the Switch. Like they've done everything I could have wanted and asked for. Like a sequel to every game. They're all good. But what the fuck is wrong with them not bringing back their old games when they could easily they have a service for it and they could just dump those ROMs on I
thought they already did that because I feel like on the I don't know, on the Switch, like you can download all these old games. But like,
oh, V, look, you should actually look at it. It's pathetic.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Gene Rant.
Here we go. Crack my knuckles. It's pathetic. Like they try, but it's pathetic. They have such a limited amount of games and there's like barely anything that's really playable. A lot of it's just like shovelware from the 90s. But anyway, yeah, so back to Brandon.
Earthbound's big. Okay, we can do a whole different podcast about Earthbound.
It's going to be a limited series.
Yeah, we can do a whole We'll talk about it. Yes.
I wrote down a list of some video games that I love that have spoke to me. Phoenix Wright series. Love Phoenix Wright.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can find a theme with all these. Wind Waker is the best Zelda in my opinion.
I love Wind Waker.
Okami, Katamari, like those.
I love Katamari. Oh man, Brandon, this is why we're friends.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and like all those games have those elements, right?
They all have that quirkiness and that, yeah.
And like, you know, there can be, I don't think there's any sadness in Katamari, but like there's a little bit of sadness in like Phoenix Wright. There's some sadness in Wind Waker. There's some like quiet moments in Okami, right?
I challenge that. I think there's a lot of sadness in Katamari. I think it's just
give it to me, Gene. Give it to me.
I mean, I don't think you have to look far. Like, I love that the dynamic between the prince and the king is that of like an abusive dad. Like he's a shitty dad. And like that's the whole plot of the game is that he like went on a bender and like fucked up the stars in the sky and then he's like, hey son, now you have to fix this. And it's like, that's sad. Like that's fucked up. And there's a lot of little things when you're just like rolling up that the town, they're like little mini stories that happen if you pay attention and you're like, I don't know. It's.
I like that, Gene. I like that a lot. Okay, all right.
I love Katamari. I think it's like a work of art. But yeah, keep going.
Wait, so are we talking about video games only? What else are we talking about?
You can talk whatever you want.
I thought you had like your whole list of games and that you weren't done going through them.
Oh, that's as far as I got. And then we hopped on the call.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
that's a good list.
I'm sure I'm missing a ton of others. I mean, I played a lot of Nintendo. I didn't play a lot of Sega.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into that during the worst interview question later on.
Yeah. Well, let's you had some questions. I think it might be a good spot to jump into some questions.
100%.
Okay.
At Court the Forest asked, are there any kids series you don't like but your kids love, or vice versa? Also, what are you putting out a zine of your diary comics? I love them.
I love them. Court, love Court. I love her. Such a talented artist. Great questions, obviously. Cartoons that I watch my kids. So my kid is obsessed with television, but I'm a strict dad. I don't let her watch stuff during the week. So Saturdays and Sundays are like, go nuts.
That's good. That's interesting. Okay.
She gets to watch at 4:30. She gets to watch an episode of Reading Rainbow. That's about it. But on weekends, weekends she gets to go ham. So, and I'm like that super strict dad, like where I'm like watching the shows, not that I'm watching these to be like, are these characters gonna shoot heroin up their arm? Like these are like, I'm watching it to be like, you're gonna have good taste in shows.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I'm not gonna let you watch. I can't think of anything else in my head. I'm not gonna let you watch. If I'm gonna sit here and watch these with you, they better be good. So we watched Miraculous Ladybug. She was a huge fan of Miraculous Ladybug, which I loved. I got her into Sailor Moon. She's 4, so like I gotta take it with a grain of salt. So like Sailor Moon, again, we talked about Sailor Moon. She'll watch a couple of those, even though it's pretty mature for her. And especially like you guys remember season 1, like those villains are pretty damn scary. Like like pretty scary. So we skip ahead through those, but she'll watch a couple of Sailor Moons, and I love those with her. She's huge into Pokemon. I was like, all right, this kid's gonna be a huge Pokemon fan. So she's like watched Indigo League like 1,000 times. Brock is her favorite character.
I love Brock. He was my fave.
Yeah.
She was like so bummed that he left. She's like, why'd they leave? Why'd they cut him out? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You're right. Why do they do this to us? How can they get rid of Brock?
He comes back. He comes back.
I
He
know.
comes back in whatever the islands, I think, isn't he? The one when they're like sailing around the islands.
I don't know. Who they replacing with? Tracy? Who gives a shit about that
Who
guy?
gives a shit? Yeah, Tracy.
Oh, I was so mad. I was like, oh, I'm so mad with you about this. This is terrible.
Dumb haircut. Hate him. Anyway.
Loves Pokemon. Wait, but the question was like, oh, stuff that I don't let her watch stuff. I don't let her watch stuff I don't like. I guess the only thing I don't. I mean, you know what I mean? I control the remote, right? So I'm picking what she watches, and she's so happy to watch anything that is on the television that she almost doesn't put up any protest. She doesn't. I won't watch, and this is something that like her and her mom watch, and this is not a knock against the movies, but like I can't watch another episode of, and I can't watch another Frozen. I can't watch Frozen anymore.
Oh yeah, you've seen it too many times.
I don't.
I've seen it too many times. Like I can't watch it anymore. So that's what I don't watch with her. I just refuse to watch it with her. Like that's when she watches her mom. She watches. I've never seen Frozen 2. She'll watch that with her.
I don't blame you.
She's a big. But she'll watch Ghibli movies with me. Kiki, Totoro are her big ones. She loves Castle in the Sky, except when the robot goes berserk. That's the only time that she's like, fast forward it.
Oh,
It is scary.
it's scary.
How's that for the kid question?
That's really good.
That's a good answer. Okay. At Gia Ligamari asked or said, talk about your most embarrassing interview moments. Lol.
Oh, is it for you guys too? Are you guys gonna answer?
I don't know.
I think we can. It's
I guess.
It's up to you guys.
We didn't. I don't think we have any. We edit them all out. No, I don't know. It's all been pretty smooth so far.
Wait, is it interview as in like job interview? Like maybe when we like
maybe.
interviewed for a job and it was like really embarrassing.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I've told the story before on Twitter, but I'll tell you my Sega interview, and I'll try to keep it short. Sega brought me in as they were like, "Well, we're gonna try to find someone to revamp the animation. You know, we need to figure out what's going on with Sonic." And I was like, "Well," I really tried to get out of it because they were looking for like I think they were looking for like a head of animation. I was like, that seems way too important for what I'm looking for. Like, I'm not a head of animation kind of guy. And like, well, we got your resume. We know that you love video games. We please come in and interview us. I was like, all right, I'll interview with you, Sega. It was like the worst interview ever because I don't have that affinity to Sega that people that love Sega do. I didn't play Sega growing up. Like, I had a Nintendo, right? You were either a Nintendo kid or you were a Sega kid.
Yeah.
Right?
You cannot.
I mean, unless you were a rich kid, like I was like, no, I had Nintendo, and that was the horse I stuck with all my life. So I was like, I don't really know anything about like. I have no affinity towards Sonic. I thought the games. I could lose some fans here, but Sonic was too fast for me. I was like, I can't enjoy the level design here. Like, I'm just running as fast as I can, blowing through this level as fast as I can. That's the point of the game. Back me up here.
That's you're being very kind. I think they're bad games, and I don't care if I lose followers or whatever.
Honestly, I have never played a Sonic game. I just like the designs. I think the Sonic character design is a pretty strong and amazing design. I don't know anything about this character, but I love him anyway.
Yeah.
The music's good. I like the music.
Yeah.
There's stuff to like about Sonic. There's a lot to hate. It's a horrendous franchise.
Your whole point is to run through the level as fast as you can. I was like, no, I want to take my time. I want to look at stuff.
Well, even that doesn't work as well as I think it does. I remember like there was a video that broke it down, and it's like with the speed that they want you to move at, and like you get like a frame to respond to an enemy that comes on screen, and so you're just constantly having to slow down to deal with problems, which takes away the fun of going fast. Anyway, I don't like Sonic games, but I have lots of friends that love Sonic.
Let's do another podcast about Sonic.
Let's do another podcast, a limited series about Sonic. I know.
So they brought me in, and I was like, okay, I don't have any affinity towards Sonic, but okay, let's talk about it. They're like, so we're struggling with Cartoon Network's not giving us like the prime slot. They put us in and they're like, and there was this like big all the fans like we got to be really careful how we handle Sonic. Like the fans, we changed the color of his arms and like it became a big deal. And I like burst out laughing. I'm like, oh, you're serious? They're like, yeah. They're like, oh, like the fans are so rabid about Sonic that you can't change the color of his arms. And they're like, yeah, this is a big deal. I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of laughed, but they like weren't laughing with me. So I was like, oh, this interview's going real well. And then they were like, okay, so what would you like, if you were to come in here and like kind of like, I don't know, like, do you have any ideas what you do with Sonic? And I was like, Yeah, and I'll tell you exactly what you do. And they're like, oh yeah, and they're, they got out their notepads and they're like, what do you do? And I was like, again, I'm gonna butcher his last name because I actually don't know how to. Tyson H. We all know
it's Hesse. Yeah,
is it Hesse? Okay,
I think so.
so I was like, Tyson Hesse, let him do whatever he wants. Let him just do whatever he wants.
And that's what they did.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, let him create a show. I'm not going to give him any notes on what his series is. Let him hire who he wants to hire, pay them out of the artists that he wants out of their contracts, let him hire his own crew, and let him do a Sonic, whatever he wants to do. And they're like, that's your answer? And I was like, yeah, that's it. And they're like, okay, well, have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
I never heard from them again.
I love that though. That's such a good flex. Just hire this guy. And he's great. He's really good at what he does. He's really like reinvigorated the character.
Like, hey, like
he saved that movie.
Yeah.
Like full stop, he saved that movie.
No, they should actually be reaching out to me and apologizing to me because that was my idea.
Yeah. Where do you get the money? They should send you a check.
Where's my I just want recognition that my interview actually maybe wasn't that bad and that maybe that I was too forward thinking for you.
Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you planted that idea in their heads.
All right, that's my worst interview.
I don't know if I have one. I've definitely had embarrassing interview moments, but that's just life. This is about you, Brandon. I got another question.
Okay.
From @thelovelyTony. Hi, I'm interested to know if Brandon had any tips when it comes to writing for animation. Do's, don'ts, getting from an idea to finished script, how to utilize influences from other media to inspire a story, etc.
Oh, yeah. Man, I saw this question and I was like kind of stressing about this because I feel like there's so many other resources out there that are better than mine. I know that, just today, like Shay Fontana did like an awesome thread about animation writing, like, and she's been doing this way, 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 way longer than I have. I think it was either Josie Campbell or Madison Bateman also did a thread about animation writing that like the lovely Tony should check out. I haven't been doing this very long, I've physically, actually doing writing for animation. I've only been doing it a little over a year. So I feel like.
Yeah, but we want to know about your philosophy. Like,
I guess my philosophy is I think one, you need to love animation. I feel like it's evident if you don't know anything about animation and you're writing for it. That's one thing I feel like. I feel like you got to know your audience. I feel like you have to look, if you don't, you have to, people will have varying opinions about this, but I think you do have to be a kid at heart. Like people be like, don't write, there are people out there that I respect, that I love, that are working animation. They're like, I don't really care about kids. I just do I do my job and da-da-da. It's like, well, I feel like the greats actually do care about kids that are watching their stuff. And
you would hope.
Some people don't, and they're great at their job. You know what I mean? Like some people are, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. It's, well, here's my big tip. Here's my big tip if you're going to get on a show, if you're staffed on a show. And I feel like one of my big tips would be just keep reminding yourself that like, do the best work you can, leave it all on the table. But at the end of the day, it's not your show. Right. Unless it is your show, then that's another story. But like, you're going to get notes on your script. You're going to get notes from the showrunners. You're going to get, it's not like, I feel like I've heard horror stories. Luckily, I haven't yet experienced this in any of the rooms I've been in, but I've heard stories from horror stories from other people that have been like, petulant writers that are like, oh, I got notes on this, or they keep trying to push an idea through and it doesn't get through, and they pout about it, and and it suffers in their work. And it's like, look, man, your job is you're a gun for hire.
Right.
Do the best work you can. It ain't your show. Right. I mean, I'm sure. I wonder if you. I mean, as artists, do you feel this? How do you feel about that? How do you?
I do agree with that. I feel for me, I actually do agree that like it's a lot easier for me when the boundaries are clear and when the showrunner or the directors or whoever are like, this is what I want. This is what the show is. And once it's super clear, there's no room for me to have the misconception of having to fill in the gaps with my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like when I know exactly what I'm hired to do, it's really easy because like you said, then I can just do what I'm told to do. And it's really easy for me to separate. I know exactly. I actually was telling someone that it's like when someone's being really clear with what the show is, it's like they're telling you, this is the sandbox that you got. This is the beginning. Like this is,
that's a great word.
and the sand stays in the sandbox. You know what I'm saying? But when there's no boundaries, because I've heard that on shows where it's like, put all your heart into it, put yourself into your work. Like, we want to see you. That's when it starts becoming really hard for me, because then I believe it. I'm like, oh, you want to see me? So then I start putting myself out there. And then when it gets when it gets canned, it hurts more, because it's like, oh, but I thought you said you wanted me. So when the sandbox is not clear for me, that's when it's hard. Yeah.
That's really good. And I feel like that goes with writing as well. Like, I feel like it's the same thing. But I think at the end of the day, we all put our best, we do the best we can. Like, you have to, or else you're never gonna get hired again. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's, if someone's being really clear with what they want you to do, then it's like, oh, this is great. I can actually do my best for you, because I know exactly what you want, and I have the skills to give it to you, which feels really great. I think when you can be in that position.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not put yourself into it, but at the end of the day, it's like a job, and you don't want to burn out. Like, that's a quick way to burn out, is if you put too much of yourself into it.
If you put too much of yourself into it too, like I said, like, you know, when you're writing a script, I don't ever heard this happen before. Very rarely is it your script. Really. I mean, you maybe get assigned to it, and you may be doing the bones, or, you know, you're going to get a couple things, but it's a collaborative thing. Like, you're in a room, everyone's pitching ideas, everyone's going to go through your script and punch it up. The showrunner, the story editor is going to make direct changes, and you got to just like let that go. Like, again, like, I haven't seen, I'm going to reiterate that I've been so fortunate enough to, I've been in the limited time I've been in doing writing professionally, in the rooms that I've been in, it hasn't been like this. But I've heard these horror stories where, like, these writers get like really, really, like, you know, petulant, and like, they're like, oh, my vision is mine, I'm getting like noted to death. It's like, it ain't your show. Just
yeah. Well, that's good advice. I think that's great advice. Let's talk about something we always forget to bring up, but like, how do you deal with creative block when you're kind of stuck on something and you're not sure what to work on?
And also, what does it look like for you when you're dealing with creative block?
Well, I get I have a lot of whiskey. So what I do,
oh, that's good.
I just pound a lot of whiskey, and then I go from there.
I gotta write that down. Okay. Drink a lot of whiskey. Okay.
That's just me.
CG, there's like so many different ways of dealing.
I know, yeah. Drinking.
Very healthy, everyone.
That's one. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not.
Oh, I know you're not joking.
Because a lot of, and this is like a lot of things I read about, because I also do prose writing, right? Like, I sold a YA manuscript. So I'm learning like that whole side of things as well.
Yeah.
And they say, like, you know, one of the things I always see is like, the first draft doesn't have to be perfect. So, you know, a lot of like writers will go back and be like, I gotta go back and change this. I gotta go back and change this. I gotta make this perfect. And like, it's so hard for them to get a first draft out, because they're so in their own head about getting it perfect. And for me, I'm not condoning this unless you want to take my advice, but like, whiskey, relaxing myself, and going back in and being like, okay, I don't care what I'm writing right now.
No, I think that's valid. I think that the anxiety of like of feeling like you're not making anything good keeps a lot of people from doing anything. And so if there's a way to, and I guess it sometimes requires substances, but like, if there's a way for somebody to loosen up, then like, yeah, fuck it, why not? You know, as long as you're not an alcoholic. I guess, like,
I don't know if I brought it up on the podcast yet, but I was reading, so it kind of ties into, like, you know how, like, you're saying, like, loosening up is kind of like what helps you move forward, and kind of like tap maybe a little bit into like your unconscious, or just like a layer of thinking that you were probably keeping under, I would say, like, constraint of like the active, like the mind of the everyday tasks, and like, I gotta get this done, like the stressed out mind, I guess. There's a way of like tapping into your subconscious that I read like in an article that Dali was like doing, is that you purposefully try to get yourself to kind of like fall asleep. You're like, And so the
Mhm.
way that he would do it
Mm.
was that like he would hold a key in his hand so that like when he would start to like fall asleep, the key would fall from his hand, making enough noise that it would like startle him. And like that moment that like when you go between a moment of consciousness to like unconsciousness, you basically have your neurons pinging in a different path than your normal path, and like
Damn.
and then you can unlock some doors. So like like this is kind of, I guess, useful when you're like kind of stuck in a corner and you're like, okay, I got to think outside the box. I've gone for a walk, it did nothing for me. Well, maybe you could, I don't
Mhm.
know, if you're able to
Yeah.
fall asleep
Mhm.
on command, I guess.
I don't think I can do that. That's not gonna work for me.
I just thought it was a cool story.
But it's cool. No, I mean, yeah, whatever works.
And it's similar to alcohol, I guess.
Okay. Aside from whiskey, though, here's the other thing I'll say is that I think that it's been really hard to write during this pandemic because we're not seeing anyone,
Wow.
and I feel like so
Oh,
much
yeah.
inspiration comes from like there will be days where like I just need to go out and like see people and like who I gotta hit up people that I haven't seen for a while. Who's gonna grab a drink with me at hey, what are you doing right now? Let's go grab a drink. And just talking with people and like it just inspires you to like, oh, here's a new story, here's a new person, here's a new point of view, it just jostles that. And it's so hard to do this now with the pandemic because I'm not seeing anybody. It's really, really,
Yeah.
really hard. Like like I said to Jane, like walks just at some point walks just don't do it anymore.
Right, true.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know.
It's tough. For us, for me, I guess the podcast has been great because I was in a serious slump, and then like starting to do this was kind of a taste of that. It's like I'm catching up with friends and I'm hearing their stories, and it's just been like, I don't know, it's really gotten me, and it's like something to do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it's like it's something different that doesn't require my creative brain to function. But what's interesting is that when you walk away from that part of your brain or your life, whatever, it rejuvenates, and then you come back to it. It's like, but if you try to force it, it'll never come back, that little spark. So it's like, it's good to walk away and do other things, and spend time with your family, spend time, whatever it is. Yeah, it sucks that we don't have access, we can't see our friends and stuff.
And there was like another thing that I was talking about with a friend of mine. It was just like there's a moment when you like get too wrapped up into your work, you realize, wait, my life is just work, and what am I doing? I have no hobbies.
Oh yeah.
I am just my work. And then it's like,
Yeah.
time to get a hobby.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've been like trying, like I'm on deadline for this manuscript, and there'll be days where I'm just like plowing away, doing not only doing like during the day I'm working on working on my show tasks, and then at nighttime I gotta go back out in the office and work on my manuscript. And it's just like you start to just like you know what, letting myself be like, I'm gonna play Ghost of Tsushima for all weekend long. I'm gonna do that, and like it seems like goofing off or whatever, like you're playing a video game, but like consuming that media, watching TV, watching something that's like not in your genre,
Yeah.
like watching live.
Yep.
I just watched Ted Lasso. What a treat, right? I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. Like I'm a samurai running around the feudal Japanese countryside, like killing dudes with a katana with cool moves. Like has nothing to do with what I'm writing, nothing to do at all. But like the more you're consuming, like reading books, playing video games, doing stuff that's out, it's still fuel for you that you just don't know consciously.
Yeah.
So it sounds like weird advice to be like, go play a video game, go read a book. Like has nothing to do with animation. That has nothing to do with the work that you're working on. It's gonna like unlock stuff that you might not even be aware of.
Absolutely. Do you separate your day job workspace and your manuscript workspace?
Yes, only because I have to because of COVID.
Interesting.
I have to because of COVID. So I'm very fortunate that I have one of those old those California garages that we like transform into an office. My wife works from home, so she actually works out in the back office during the day, and then I take my laptop into the bedroom, and that's how I that's how I work, and I do Zoom calls with the writer's room during the day.
I see.
And then at nighttime I go back. And at nighttime she's done with work, I put the kids down, I go back in the back office and I work on my.
I see. That's what you mean. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if it is a mental thing, just because for me, like, it was hard to do any personal projects at home because like my desk was was work time. And so at the end of the day, I would walk away from it, be like, I don't want to go back to work time. So like I just wasn't doing anything personal because it got tainted, like my personal desk.
Yeah, it's tough.
So,
I don't know. V, Gene, you guys live and die off your tablet, right? Like, how can you move that? I don't know.
I have a Cintiq. Yeah, but
I do. That's why I used to love drawing traditional for my personal work, because it was like the easiest way for me to do a paid job is digital, and art is on paper. The only thing is like, yeah. Then recently I was like, oh, I want to make a web comic, and then I was like, well, if I want it to look really good, I have to make it digital. But yeah, that was a good one. Like changing medium.
Yeah, for me it was like the Cintiq became work, and so I didn't want to have to sit at my desk and draw, and so I actually dug out an old tablet and bought a little like roller table, and I was working on stuff just with a tablet on the couch, and that felt more like relax time. Like that felt more like, my time, and that helped. But then the tablet stopped working with Flash very well, so whoops. But I'll figure it out. But anyway, so the only other thing that we wanted to ask you is like, what are your goals going forward in your career? And like, you mentioned you're going to keep pitching your project around, which is great, but kind of what stuff do you look forward to in your future?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of ties back to kind of like that question that little lovely Tony had about like tips and stuff, but I feel like I'm always learning too, right? It's like, especially that I've changed careers from executive to writing professionally. So at lovely Tony, please be humble, and you're learning every single job you get, every single room you're in. Learn from the people around you. I'm so fortunate to work with like some really awesome writers and under some great showrunners that I've learned so much from, and it's invaluable and it's great. So I hope I keep learning from people and doing stuff. As far as my goals, I love writing. I know we talk more about my animation writing than we'd have my kidlit career, but I sold a book and I hope to keep writing and selling books. I'd love to sell another. I sold a YA. I'd love to sell a middle grade. I'd love to sell a picture book.
God, we should have talked about that, because that's a whole other world too.
It's a whole other world.
Yeah.
I mean, this is animation. This is an animation podcast.
Oh, we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back and we'll talk about that.
We'll see. Don't make any promises. Like if you get like dismal numbers on this, like I understand. You can cut me.
Oh, we don't do this for the numbers.
Here's the executive of me being like, I understand. You can cut me. You can have a hot time.
Yeah. You're so used to rejection.
But yeah, I mean, I love to keep working in animation. I love working in animation. I love the medium. I always have. Yeah. And I said, I'd love to sell this animated series. I love the characters so much. I want to share these characters, their dilemmas, their thoughts, their plights with the world. I think a lot of kids would connect with them, and there's stories that they have that connect with kids that I really would love to get out there. So, man, I hope I sell the show. It'd be great. That's my goal.
I hope you do.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I really want to see your pitch, if that's cool.
Well, I will send it to you after this recording.
Let's just send it to everyone. Let's send it to everyone that's listening to this.
I mean, look,
let's just share it around.
Hey, look, if every single studio says no to it and it's dead forever, then I'm definitely going to post it up.
Nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
With Hans's permission, of course. I think...
Sure. Cool. Well, that's the end of this creative block. Thanks to Brandon for being our guest and sharing his story.
And thanks to our listeners. Follow us on Twitter, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to my sister Clemens for editing the podcast.
She's doing great. Please subscribe to the channel if you love our content. I've been your host, Gene.
And I was V. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.